네, 안녕하세요. 네, 예습낭독을 빨리 하고 가도록 하겠습니다. 예습낭독을 하기 위해서 제가 여기 오픈 채팅에다가 예습낭독 바로 하겠습니다. 네, 내일 부분인데요. Chapter 13 되겠습니다. 읽고 있는 책은 Lower Doll, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. 여기 이거입니다. 네, 읽어볼게요. 내일은요, page 65, 66, 67, 68, 60, 9. 네, 분량이 많군요. 네, 가보도록 하겠습니다. Chapter 13, The Big Day Arrives. The sun was shining brightly on the morning of the big day, but the ground was still white with snow and the air was very cold. Outside the gates of Wonka's factory, enormous crowds of people had gathered to watch the 5 lucky ticket holders going in. The excitement was tremendous. It was just before 10 o'clock. The crowds were pushing and shouting, and policemen with arms linked were trying to hold them back from the gates. Right beside the gates, in a small group that was carefully shielded from the crowds by the police, stood the 5 famous children, together with the grown-ups who had come with them. The tall, bony old figure of Grandpa Joe could be seen standing quietly among them, and beside him, holding tightly on his hand, was little Charlie Bucket himself. All the children, except Charlie, had both their mothers and fathers with them, and it was a good thing that they had. Otherwise, the whole party might have gotten out of hand. They were so eager to get going that their parents were having to hold them back by force and prevent them from climbing over the gates. Be patient, cried the fathers. Be still. It's not time yet. It's not 10 o'clock. Behind him, Charlie Bucket could hear the shouts of the people in the crowd as they pushed and fought to get a glimpse of the famous children. There's Violet Biergard. He heard someone shouting. That's her all right. I can remember her face from the newspapers. And you know what? Somebody else shouted back. She's still chewing that dreadful old piece of gum she'd had for 3 months. You look at her jaws. They are still working on it. Who's the big fat boy? That's Augustus Gloop. So it is. Enormous, isn't he? Fantastic. Who's the kid with a picture of the Lone Ranger stenciled on his wild breaker? That's Mike TV. He's the television friend. Find? 이거 이상하네요. Find. friend 같기도 하고. He must be crazy. Look at all those crazy pistols he's got hanging all over him. The one I want to see is Veruca Salt, shouted another voice in the crowd. She's the girl whose father bought up 500,000 candy bars and then made the workers in his peanut factory unwrap every one of them until they found a golden ticket. He gives her anything she wants, absolutely anything. She only has to start screaming for it and she gets it. Dreadful, isn't it? Shocking, I call it. Which do you think is her? That one, over there on the left, the little girl in the silver mink coat. Which one is Charlie Bucket? Charlie Bucket? He must be that skinny little shrimp standing beside the old fellow who looks like a skeleton, right close to us. Just there. See him? Why, hasn't he got a coat on this cold weather? Don't ask me. Maybe he can't afford to buy one. Zippers! He must be freezing. Charlie, standing only a few paces away from the speakers, gave Grandpa Joe's hand a squeeze, and the old man looked down at Charlie and smiled. Somewhere in the distance, a church clock began striking 10, very slowly with a loud creaking. of rusty hinges. The great iron gates of the factory began to swing open. The crowd began suddenly silent. The children stopped jumping about. All eyes were fixed upon the gate. There he is, somebody shouted. That's him. And so it was. 여기까지네요. 네, 예습낭독 여기까지 할게요. 안녕.